Now, I'm sure many of you expected this video to be about the RMS Queen Mary, docked in Long Beach. However, you would be wrong, as there is another vessel by the same name, docked in Glasgow, even older than the other famous Queen Mary. The TS Queen Mary, powered by 3 direct drive steam turbines, with a passenger capacity of 2,086, and was the largest steamship on the River Clyde. Following the completion of her sea trials, achieving a maximum speed of 19.7 knots, she was introduced on the 20th of May 1933. Williamson Buchanan, who was the owner of the fleet that the Queen Mary would serve in, based her at Glasgow's Bridge Wharf, where she carried approximately 13,000 passengers each week. Queen Mary sailed during the summer for the Aran Coast and the Isles of Bute. In 1935, Cunard Line asked Williamson Buchanan to change the name of TS Queen Mary to TS Queen Mary II, in order to have the name available for their new flagship liner, as I'm sure you all know is the famous RMS Queen Mary, which was to be launched by Queen Mary of Tech. You're losing track of all the Queen Marys? I certainly am. The owners of Williamson Buchanan agreed, and in exchange Cunard Line presented them with a portrait of Her Majesty to hang in her forward lounge. In 1936, the entire Williamson Buchanan fleet, including the recently renamed TS Queen Mary II, passed into the ownership of the London, Midland and Scottish Railway Company. Later that same year, she joined the William Buchanan Steamers in 1936 Limited. During World War II, she provided a mail and passenger service to the Scottish Isles, and after the war she was refitted and painted in LMS company livery, after the war, and returned to her normal passenger service. In 1948, nationalism of the railways brought all the remaining passenger ships under the ownership of the Caledonian Steam Packet Company. During the winter of 1956, she was converted from a coal-burning ship to an oil-burning ship. This required the removal of the 2 original Scotch boilers and replacing them with one new single-ended boiler, and the installation of one larger, more modern funnel in place of the original 2, in which, my opinion, I definitely prefer the single funnel instead of 2. In addition, a new mainmast was also added so that Queen Mary II now had the requirements to meet the new regulations for ship lighting. In the 1960s, there was a decline in the passenger sailings in the Firth of Clyde, but TS Queen Mary II continued in service and was refitted for cruises around the Scottish Isles. Regular sailings from Glasgow ended on September 15th, 1969, with the Caledonian Steam Packet Company preferring to have her sail out of Gourock. In 1976, TS Queen Mary II, following the removal of RMS Queen Mary from service, was once again able to formally be registered as TS Queen Mary. Whilst TS Queen Mary remained very popular in the charter market, nonetheless she was over 40 years old, and it was becoming apparent that some major work would be required to keep her in service. The decision was taken to retire the vessel from service, and in September 1977, TS Queen Mary undertook her final sailing before being laid up in East India Harbour, Greenock. In 1978, TS Queen Mary was sold to Glasgow District Council, which planned to convert her into a museum. The council, however, was unable to commit the necessary funding, and so sold her in 1980 to Tesswright, who then relocated her to London under tow in 1981. In 1987, Queen Mary was sold again and underwent a £2.5 million restoration and was moored at Victoria Embarkment. Facilities included 2 bars and 2 function rooms, whilst the top deck of the ship was used as an open-air venue with bar facilities. In November 2009, TS Queen Mary was towed to Tilbury to be prepared for her new life at La Rochelle. She had been purchased by Samuel Boudon, who had planned to renovate her as a floating restaurant and fitness centre. However, by 2011, the venture had fallen through, and she remains moored at Tilbury docks with an uncertain future. TS Queen Mary was auctioned by Capital Marine Services on the 24th of August 2011, and sold again with plans to restore the vessel to her 1930s glory. In 2012, the charity Friends of the TS Queen Mary was formed, with the clear goal of returning TS Queen Mary to her permanent berth in Glasgow. Eventually, the Port of Tilbury put the vessel up for auction, with Friends of TS Queen Mary's bid, which was funded by Jim McCall, being accepted, the purchase being finalised in October 2015. A campaign to undertake essential repairs was launched in December 2015 by Robbie Coltrane. Donations flooded in across the UK, and by March 2016, all of the funding required was secured, and she arrived back to Glasgow after many years. Today, TS Queen Mary is now berthed at the entrance of Glasgow Science Centre, where she's undergoing a major refit to become a permanent heritage destination and educational centre, and scheduled to return to passenger cruising in 2024. PS Waverley, built in 1946 to replace the original PS Waverley, built in 1899, which was unfortunately sunk in 1940, evacuating troops from Dunkirk, meaning that a new paddle steamer was required to service the Clyde. The new Waverley was to be powered by a triple expansion steam engine built in Greenock, Scotland. Her engines achieved a trial speed of 18.37 knots, and passengers could watch this engine moving from passageways on either side of the engine room. The main crank is solidly attached to both paddle wheels, so they cannot turn independently. Therefore, the Waverley has a much larger turning circle than most modern ferries. The shipbuilders A&J Inglis of Glasgow launched the new Waverley steamer in October 1946 and entering service in June 1947 for the Firth of Clyde steamer route. In her first year in service, she wore the iconic red, white and black funnel colours that can be seen today. The following year, the livery was changed as well as her owners, being transferred to the Caledonian Steam Packet Company, or CPS for short. The funnels were repainted to a buff colour with black tops. Service continued as normal until the 1960s, when a gradual change in what people considered a holiday caused a decline in passenger numbers. Waverley was therefore withdrawn from service in 1973, becoming too costly to operate. By then, the Paddle Steamer Preservation Society had been set up. Waverley's owners were keen to ensure that the ship was preserved, and sold Waverley to the PSPS for the price of £1. Both sides never imagined that the vessel would ever return to steam, but in the case that she would, Waverley's previous owners stated that she should not sail in competition with our other remaining cruise vessel, TS Queen Mary, and in the link above you can watch the video on that. A public appeal was introduced so that funding could be secured for the return of the Waverley to service, which was thankfully a huge success. Since then, Waverley has been joined in the PSPS fleet, accompanied by PS Kingswear Castle, MV Balmoral, and has had a series of extensive refits and much restoration work over the years, including a new boiler and improvements to meet modern safety standards. Between the years of 2000 and 2003, Waverley underwent a substantial rebuild and reboilering, including many 21st century safety and technological improvements, also returning the ship back to its original 1947 livery. In 2019, Waverley was withdrawn from service due to boiler problems, and it was announced on the 11th of July 2019 that new boilers had been ordered for a price of £2.8 million. Following the boiler replacement, Waverley returned to sea on the 13th of August 2020 for sea trials, and resumed service for a short COVID-19 affected season, starting on the 22nd of August. However, this was cut short after she struck a pier on the 3rd of September, damaging her bow. However, this was hastily repaired, and she continues to have successful cruises around the British Isles to this day. I really hope you enjoyed this video, and I would also like to thank all of you for 1,000 subscribers. For a small channel like this, it's really a huge milestone, so thank you to each and every one of you, because without you subscribing and supporting this channel, it wouldn't be where it is today. So thank you.